Evening, everybody, and welcome to the January 10th, 2024. That's right. We said 2024 for the first time. We did it right. Parks and Community Services Commission meeting. It is 7 p.m. And we thank you all for being in attendance. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Lopez Lucy, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. How about a roll call?
There we go. All right. Chair Dorlick,
Present.
Vice Chair Mitra,
Present.
Commissioner Breed, Commissioner Levy,
Present.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy,
Present.
Commissioner Osland,
Present.
Commissioner Owens,
Here.
Student Commissioner Tatapali,
Present.
and we also have in attendance Kathy Hyman and Brad Morris.
Okay, who had Commissioner Owens for breaking the,
I did.
okay, did you?
I don't know
Okay.
if I'm present, but I'm physically here, so I just wanted to.
Okay, I just wanted to check. I was
Yeah.
waiting for the break in the commitment there.
Absolutely.
All right, do we have any special items or announcements? We have a temporary employee of the month for December. All right, Michael.
Evening, Parks and Community Services Commissioners. I have with me tonight Michael Kitchens. He's a building attendant too, in our facilities division. I'm gonna share the staff report. The City of San Ramon Parks and Community Services would like to recognize Michael Kitchens for earning temporary building attendant or temporary employee of the month as a building attendant too for the month of December. Michael has been a building attendant with the Parks and Community Services Facilities Division since March 2022 or 2022. Since being hired, Michael has quickly gained a reputation as one of the standout staff members recognized throughout the entire department for his exemplary work. Michael has worked with all the foundation groups and has assisted with large roles at the city's Bah Humbug Fitness Race and also the Fitness Run San Ramon Race. Most recently, Michael had a very important role in the Bah Humbug event where he oversaw the intersection at Iron Horse Middle School. This is typically one of the more complex traffic concerns for us, and Michael did an exemplary job keeping everybody safe and keeping traffic flowing. Michael also supported the mayor's conference in the month of December as well. Key item we wanted to bring forward tonight on December 6th at the El Costa Senior and Community Center, where Michael works frequently. He demonstrated exceptional professionalism and efficiency in resolving an unexpected incident in the kitchen during lunch. Apparently, some 2 gallons of soup was spilled, leading to the closure of the kitchen. Upon this, Michael quickly jumped to action and within 15 minutes had the whole kitchen cleaned up and ready to go, and lunch was resumed. So he was quite the hero that day at the senior facility, keeping the lunch program intact. In addition to that, Michael comforted the volunteer who had the unfortunate accident and also provided some ideas on how to avoid that in the future. So his tireless efforts and any tasks that we give him, he's embraces, and he just a complete exemplary employee. Michael Kitchens also, we lean on him to train our new building attendant staff. So he basically gives them orientation throughout all of our facilities, teaches them on the proper practices and protocols. So he's been very helpful in bringing our new staff on board. And he's relied on heavily during his shifts. A lot of the other staff call Michael, and he's always quick to help, even if they're at a different facility. So the Parks and Community Services Department would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to Michael, and we appreciate his commitment and excellence in working throughout the San Ramon facilities. Thank you.
Here's a certificate. For that. And here's a mug. It's probably pretty good for that cup of soup if you have to. Okay, hey, thank you. Exactly. Thank you so much for your effort and, going the extra mile for us. We
Thank you very
appreciate that. You want to say anything?
Yeah, real quick. So, yeah, thank you very much. As mentioned, I've been with the city for almost 2 years now. Prior to that, I was in the private sector in business. Spent many, many years there. I can honestly say, in the 2 years that I've been there, that I have never worked with a better group of people overall than with the city, especially this group. And it's something that each one of you can be very proud of. So thank you very much again. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there was someone trying to take a photo, so maybe we could get a quick photo. Photo bomb, right?
Do you have any other special announcements?
Why, yes, we do. So I've got a few.
Be a chance to get back.
There you go. So just to kind of start out with, we do have some upcoming events. In January, it's a new year. And so the San Ramon Valley Diversity Coalition and the city will be doing the Martin Luther King open mic event in the Rotunda here on Monday. And I had those times in my head solidly. Brad, what were they?
From 2 to 4, they're gonna do the open mic night, and then they'll do kind of like a reception with cookies and punch from 4 to 5. So
So if you're around on that day, please stop by. On January 20th, the Puppet Art Theater is doing a show at the San Ramon Library right across the street. I know everyone here is aware, and I know it's going to come up at the end too, but the San Ramon Historic Foundation Crab Feed, January 27th. I've got my tickets. Do you have yours? January 31st, there's a Lunar New Year celebration at the Senior Center. If you've never stopped by that one, super fun. So the performances are just from 1:30 to 3. But if you pre-order, you all can get lunch for, I think, depending on your age, $3 or $5 that day. And it'll be an Asian themed lunch to go with the Lunar New Year. So if you were thinking about going and just visiting the Senior Center and see the lunch program, that's a really fun day because you can have lunch and then enjoy the show. And then you don't want to miss the Arts Foundation. Their Friday Foreign Film series is going to kick up in February 2nd, 9th, 16th, and 23rd. So that's coming up. Our third show for our presenting series has been booked. So we are going to have a Tina Turner tribute band on March 2nd. So that's coming out now. So we have the 3 shows, which I'm not going to say perfectly, but that's the third of the 3 shows. We're going to have a lot of meetings coming up. And so I've been querying you all constantly about meeting dates and possibilities, trying to puzzle piece together the month of the end of January and February. But right now we have a finance committee meeting scheduled for 1/24. And that would be Chair Dorlick, Commissioner Breed, and Commissioner Lopez Lucy. I'm looking at 4 o'clock for that one. So I'll be reaching out just to make sure that time works for all of you. And then we'll be having a facilities committee meeting that same day, 1/24, probably at 5:30. And that would be Commissioner Osland, Owens, and Levy. So I'll be reaching out just to confirm all of that, probably tomorrow, but I just wanted to make sure everybody had that on their calendars. And then I did send an email out today, and I've heard from most of you, I think, but I'm looking for Wednesday, January 31st to see if everyone is available for a meeting. So if I haven't heard from you, let me know after the meeting. And then lastly, sadly, I do have sad news, and these ones are always hard, but we did have 3 seniors pass during the month of December. I think many of you knew Jackie Essie from the foundation, and probably most known for bingo at this point in time. But also our longtime van driver, Kimball Arguay. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. And then Richard Van Tassel, a regular attendee at the center, also passed. So that's been a little hard time for our staff specifically out there as they deal with that. It's a reality at the senior center. It's a reality for everyone in life, but it's also been a little tough time for them. But so I wanted you to know. And then I'm sure that you probably heard on the news also our longtime SRVLA coach at the pool at SRLP, Rich Thornton, passed. And he's been a institution at the pool. I mean, he's been there, he's been around here longer than me, which is a long time. And I know. And he's had such a huge impact on the youth of the community, coaching all of those years, coaching Olympians. He was an Olympian himself. So I know that really shook up the SRVLA pretty hard. They weren't expecting this particular situation to happen. So we will be working on a tribute at the San Ramon Olympic Pool with the SRVLA. So stay tuned on that. We'll come up with something that we can do to honor his memory and the commitment that he made to the youth of this community. So all of them had impact on San Ramon, and so they will all be missed. But I just wanted to make sure you were all aware. That's it for my announcements.
All right. Do we have any public comment or written communication at this time? Okay, just a reminder that at this, if there are members of the public are encouraged to address the Parks and Community Services Commission on any item not already included in tonight's agenda, and comments would not have exceeded 3 minutes if there were any. So let's move on to the approval of minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review and read the minutes from the meeting on December 13th, 2023? Any changes, additions, comments, adjustments, alterations?
We're good.
We're good? Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I move we accept the minutes from January
December.
sorry.
December.
Well, it's all the new December 20. Thank you very much. I move we accept the minutes from December 23.
Second that.
And there's a second. All right, any further discussion? All right, let's just vote on it. Partham.
Martha.
My vote's not up.
It's none of them are up on that.
No, Steve was the mover.
Yep.
Well, that's okay.
It is okay.
Is it not allowing you to go?
Yeah, it's not,
Yeah, nope.
yeah, the mover was actually.
Oh, there we go. Okay. That will be one of the comments in the next meeting minutes. All right, so it passes. One abstain. Okay. Was there a abstention? Oh. Okay, you can. Okay, that's fine. Just wanted to make sure. All right. Let's move on to the consent calendar. Consent calendar items are considered routine and are acted upon by the Parks and Community Services with a single action. Members of the audience wishing to provide public input may request that the commission remove the item from the consent calendar. Do we have anything on the consent calendar? We don't have a consent calendar. So therefore, we cannot remove any items from the consent calendar. So let's just move on to commission business. Arts Advisory Committee Annual Report.
Adam Child, the Recreation Supervisor, along with Chair Beneficiary, are unable to be here. So we are going with next person up, which is myself, along with staff, will be able to answer questions, along with my new best friend, community member, Lisa Ranzanaus.
All right.
So I'm gonna do a brief introduction, and then hand it over to Lisa. And so this past year has been very busy for the Arts Advisory Committee. Everything ranging from having inputs to the opening of the Doherty Station Community Rec Center, as well as helping provide input and host.
Hopefully I talked loud enough.
Is the microphone on? Wonderful. Okay. Hello. This is a surprise for me to be here tonight. So anyway, bear with me. San Ramon Arts Advisory Committee 2023 Annual Report, and we're going to do a year in review. Committee charge: support and promote cultural and performing arts programs in San Ramon. Provide advice, counsel, recommendations, and feedback to the City of San Ramon on the provision, selection, and delivery of public art and cultural art programs, events, and services. Our committee members, Ranjini Venkatachari is our chair, Shelley Berry is our vice chair, Venkata Kintapalli, Madhuri Karanam, Lisa Radzanowski, Nina Shastri, Patricia Valentine, Satyakala Jaragumili is our alternate. Srinivasa Megapragada is our alternate. Marisol Rubio is our city council liaison. And Will Dolerk is our Parks and Community Services Commission liaison. Accomplishments and actions for 2023. First, review current art programs and classes within the city and make recommendations to staff for improvement. The committee received 4 presentations on the current art programs and classes within the city, including the program plan for the Doherty Station Community Arts Center, visual and performing arts classes and camps, theater operations at the Doherty Valley Performing Arts Center and Front Row Theater, and a presentation about the Poet Laureate programs. The committee provided comments and feedback on all 4 presentations. Number 2, select an artist to commission an original piece of artwork for the San Ramon Art and Wind Festival. The committee assisted staff with the selection of an artist to create an original piece of artwork to be used on the promotional material for the annual festival. Review art gallery exhibit proposals and select exhibits for the Lindsay Dirks Brown Gallery, the Alcosta Senior and Community Center Gallery, the Doherty Station Community Arts Center Gallery, the City Hall Gallery, and the San Ramon Main Library Gallery. The Arts Advisory Committee reviewed a multimedia presentation depicting representative artwork from 50 artists and artist groups. The committee ranked each submission, and then we provided feedback to the staff on the selection. Review public art proposals from private developments and make recommendations for acceptance to the Planning Commission. The Arts Advisory Committee did not receive or review any public art proposals this year. Review cultural growth grant applications and recommend grant amounts to staff. The committee received, reviewed, and approved 3 cultural growth grant applications this year for Honor Car, a musical, Hansomo, Korean Showcase, and Love for Piano recital. Encourage Arts Advisory Committee members to be an ambassador for arts, attend a minimum of 4 arts events per year in San Ramon, and provide feedback to staff. Committee members generally attend more than 4 events and regularly provide feedback at committee meetings. Host an arts summit in 2023 for arts stakeholders to provide community feedback on the delivery of arts programs and activities. The San Ramon Arts Summit was hosted on March 23rd, 2023 at the San Ramon Community Center. The 65 attendees included art students, teachers, professional artists, art businesses, art patrons, and art administrators who provided feedback on the future of arts in San Ramon. Update City of San Ramon 5-year cultural plan for the 2023 through 2027. The feedback from the Art Summit provided valuable information to update the priorities in the 5-year cultural plan. The committee has reviewed the summaries, themes, and recommendations, which will be used to update the 5-year cultural plan, which the committee will review again in 2024. Review programming and events at the Art Center and provide recommendations to staff. The committee received a presentation from the city staff at the July meeting on the programs and events expected at the Art Center. The committee provided feedback and was eagerly anticipating the Art Center grand opening. Support visual and performing artists by encouraging additional opportunities to perform or exhibit in the community. The committee received a presentation on the art gallery program in May and approved a recommendation to host 2 exhibits for emerging and professional local artists. The Parks Commission also approved the recommendation. Collaborate with local arts groups, nonprofit groups, schools, and businesses to promote arts in the community and leverage art resources. The committee recommended staff collaborate with the local arts groups, schools, and businesses. Staff partnered with the PTA to host the Reflection Arts program at the Doherty Station Community Arts Center and community groups such as the Association of Indo-American and Agamoni to offer publicity support. Goals and objectives for 2024. 1, to review current art programs and classes within the city and at the Doherty Station Community Arts Center. Make recommendations to staff for improvement. 2, select an artist to commission an original piece of artwork for the San Ramon Art and Wind Festival. 3, review art gallery exhibit proposals and select exhibits for the Lindsay Dirts Brown Gallery, the Alcosta Senior and Community Center Gallery, the Doherty Station Community Arts Center Gallery, the City Hall Gallery, and the San Ramon Main Library Gallery. 4, review public art proposals from private developments and make recommendations for acceptance to the Planning Commission. 5, review cultural growth grant applications and recommend grant amounts to staff. 6, encourage Arts Advisory Committee members to be an ambassador for arts, attend a minimum of 4 arts events per year in San Ramon, and provide feedback to staff. 7, update the City of San Ramon 5-year cultural plan, 2024 through 2028. 8, review the Arts in Public Places program and make recommendations on updates if necessary. And 9, review and make recommendations for future permanent public art projects at the Doherty Station Community Arts Center.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or feedback?
Yeah. Are there any clarifying questions from the commission?
I do have one.
Proceed.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about the Arts in Public Places program?
Would you like to take that one and talk about the sculptures and the
So I will attempt to answer your question, Commissioner Osland. And if I don't do a very good job, I'm sure Kathy or Brad can chime in. It is a long-established program that needs to be looked at. It's typically the program that outlines how we go about getting public art in the various places throughout town. And typically it is the city has a beautification fund that funds these types of projects. It typically goes every other year, depending on how much funding one takes or how long a process takes. Right now, we are finding that there is a lot of private development going on And so there are discussions as to what that looks like as far as public art goes. And so the plan actually needs to look at both how the city handles public art as well as how we handle it when private entities, builders, approach that topic as well as they move forward. Does that make sense? Perfect.
I'm not getting a list, so is there any other commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Owens.
Great presentation, Lisa and Keith. So I have a question about the Cultural Growth Fund. When I was actually on the Arts Advisory Committee, we actually used up all the funding. Now that was in part because there were no events because of COVID, so no additional funds were coming in. I was kind of curious about what the state of that is. Are we now have a good amount in there? Or
I'm going to actually pass that question to Brad Morris, who is an expert on this topic.
he is.
Oh, wow. Expert, hardly. No, thanks for asking. Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is a number of years ago, if you remember, we increased that the Cultural Growth Fund fee from $1 to $2, as well as we started to charge those non-ticketed events. And that's really helped us offset the expenses of the of those kind of repairs and the maintenance that's going into the theater. So yes, we've been able to establish a cushion in that Cultural Growth Fund, and that's slowly growing.
Good.
We're thinking annually, you're looking at about $45,000, and that'll help offset as we continue to grow. And the last couple of years, we've kind of put a pause on some of those renovations, and so those will start coming forward now that we have more money in the funds.
That's great. And I would encourage more groups out there if you're watching or listening to
Yeah.
take a part of it.
Yeah, and just on that, Commissioner Owens, and the fund hasn't, we've still been able to honor all of the requests for the Cultural Growth Fund
Right.
grants, which as, the applications that have come from the committee has been able to award those amounts. So it's been good.
Cool.
Sorry to
And-
interrupt.
Oh, no, thank you. And then the second question is, I'm curious, I didn't see anything about sort of community created art. One of my favorite projects we've done over the last few years is the Recycle Your Heart project, which Erica Valentine sort of led. Kind of this idea of like, hey, you ask the community to come and create art. That's something that I really would like to see more of. Are there any plans for anything like that in the future?
So in looking ahead, there are currently not any temporary art projects in the works in the foreseeable future. There are 3 permanent public art projects that we are working on at the Doherty Station Art Center, the stairwell murals, as well as the front monument sign. So there's 3 art projects right there. Typically, the temporary art projects fill in gaps in between the larger CIP public art pieces. But we do have, for the community generated art projects, we do have a juried local art show that will be held at the Art Center in May, and then another one in the fall. So we are having other opportunities that staff is working on getting in place, but not necessarily quote a temporary art project.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
And I'll also expand on that to say, we're also trying to get the eagle to land at the Memorial Park, as well as the public art piece in front of the San Ramon Library. So that's where we're focusing staff's time and energy on right now. And then when we get some of those things off our to-do list, then we can look at some of those more temporary
Understood.
community engagement artwork.
I know you guys are
Yeah.
really busy, so.
No,
trying to-
yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Are there any other questions, clarifying questions? Yes, Commissioner Levy.
I also had a quick question about the cultural growth grants, which is not the same question that Commissioner Owens had. So according to the report, there were, I think, 3 that were received and reviewed. Is that a typical amount, or is it a little less than usual or more than usual? I just kind of want to get an idea.
Yeah, that's kind of right around there. That's traditionally we get 1 or 2. Last year we had 3. So, it's right around that mark, anywhere from 1 to 3, depending on the events. And it was kind of nice coming out of COVID, trying to encourage some of these smaller groups to utilize this fund to establish a base and then to be able to continue forward without the fund if needed.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner questions?
I have one.
Oh, yes.
This is regarding the Cultural Growth Fund grant as well. So you said that it is, when I was there, I thought it was like 2,200 or something. So it has gone to 4,500 Is that what you just said?
Well, no, what I was saying with that number is that's what we're expecting. That's what we're hoping to bring in
Alright.
on an annual for the upcoming,
annual basis,
for the
yeah.
upcoming fiscal year.
Question was, also we had seen in previous years that repetition of same group coming and asking for the grant on that, which is okay, which is not a
Right.
bad thing, but also going to see new groups applying and getting grants on that. Have we seen that? We talked about it when I was in art commission,
Correct.
that was like 4 or 5 years back.
Right.
Have we seen any change in that?
We've seen a little bit, but we're trying to encourage more of that. And we're really trying to encourage that, especially at the Front Row Theater. That's where we think we're going to pick up some of these newer, smaller groups that might not want to take the risk of renting a big theater, but maybe a smaller one. But yes, we've had some groups that have reapplied and been awarded, but we've had a couple new ones trickle in as well. And we're
Alright.
really hoping that'll pick up with the Front Row Theater now that that's been established, and with the green room and all of those amenities.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions? Any comments? Yes, Commissioner Bree.
Thank you, Commissioner Dorlick. You're the best. So, first of all, you guys, thanks for subbing and especially like, hey, Lisa, guess what? You're going to do that. So nice job. Thank you so much. Hey, a couple comments. One, and it's more for staff, but as we look at some of the goals, it would be really helpful as we go forward to link the master plan to some of the goals we have. So for instance, I was trying to do it why before the meeting, but as you look at master plan goal number, I think it's 67, it links to your goal number 1, right? So as we go to council, it just shows that we're focused on delivering what was asked in the master plan, and it shows our goals link into the master plan. So anything you can do to make it easier for the reader and our decision makers to know that we're focused on what they want us to focus on, I think be really helpful. So please, if you could do that. The second thing would be your goal 11 from 23, which was collaborate with local ARCA groups and nonprofit schools. I think there's a huge untapped potential, maybe because I get to sit on the teen council, of how do we leverage art from our schools and our teens. Could be like in Doherty Station or in one of our facilities that we could have dedicated to, art from our high schools or middle schools, and partner with teen council to kind of get the word out there. But how do we leverage, those artists within the community and really foster that in the beginning? So it's kind of an idea. And then the other thing is, do we ever look at like technology art? Like how do we, is that emerging trend from a standpoint of, can we leverage a facility, or do we cater to people who are leveraging technology art? So, and then my last comment, I think Commissioner Owens' comment's a really good one. And maybe I'm misreading into it, but in some cities that I've been to, they partner with groups and they do public art, like the whole heart thing Dave was talking about. How do we get maybe 1 month of a year? Like, remember we did that frame thing a couple of years ago, go take a frame, picture of the mountain or whatever. But could we, and I know after we get done with the Eagle or whatever, but could we once a year figure out some type of theme? And to Commissioner Owens' point, is whether it's a heart and it's placed all around the city. And I know Danville does something like that, but I just think it gets the city more involved and gets people questioning and thinking about art. So I just thought it was a really great comment that I think could be reinforced. So that's all I have. Thank you so much for listening, you guys, and thanks again for doing it.
And just if I may address, with regarding to the linked goals linked, just to kind of make sure we're on the same page, but absolutely in any report that we put forward or the goals, we can definitely do that for you. There are 3 master plan goals predominantly that are thread throughout the upcoming 9 goals for next year. And those being, make sure I'm looking at the wrong paper or right paper. Those would be 3.1B, increasing cultural arts programs offerings by 1 or 2 classes a year. The Arts Advisory Committee looks at the classes and provides feedback. The second one that is throughout the goals is 3.2A, emphasizing programming that responds to different cultural segments, focusing on multi-generational, intergenerational opportunities, and brings geographically diverse communities together. And then the last one that maybe is a little bit of a catch-all is 4.3K, which is the Doherty Station Community Center Programming and Reuse Plan. A lot of, there's 4 goals that kind of fall under that category. But note taken, we will definitely make sure to highlight how the goals link back to the master plan.
Yeah, and I think you heard me, Keith. It's just so we get credit as we go to the council and say, we're focused on what they want us to focus on within parks. So it's easy for them to read. Like I missed 2 though, so I got like a 30% grade. So thanks.
No judging though.
You can take the test twice.
Thanks, Will.
And I just wanted to add that the committee recently, there has been a lot of discussion on how to work the high school and local artists and new experiences for them. So it is something that we're definitely discussing and trying to integrate more.
Yeah, and Lisa, if you don't mind calling you Lisa, I apologize. That's why I think teen council could be a good spot to help too. So.
Brad, did you have a comment?
Well, we have our staff here, Reed Thomas, and she's done an amazing job with that. And actually, we're going to the teen council this month, and we'll be doing a presentation on the Arts Center and what's all taking place there, looking for feedback for the arts, as well as we've got a great program for Youth Art Month. And if you got like 2 seconds, she could tell you a little bit about it. And then that way Will doesn't get to hear it all and we don't get, it's not shared with you. So real quick, Ree, you want to give us a quick update on that program?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Alrighty, so the first thing that he was speaking about was Youth Art Month. In the past, the Dublin San Ramon Women's Club has done a juried art exhibit at Lindsay Jerks Brown. And then aside from that, we would have SRBSD do an exhibit at City Hall. With this call that we did this past year in 2003 for 2024, we're actually scheduling out all 5 galleries to be youth oriented. So it's going to be youth groups, SRVSD, again, Dublin San Ramon Women's Club, to basically just give them an opportunity to celebrate the arts in the community. It's traditionally celebrated in March, but we are basically going to do a build up in March and then have the gallery scheduled out in April. Aside from that, we've also worked with our IQUIS intern from California High and a student from Doherty Valley High School to develop a open mic night for teens and young adult to take place at Front Row Theater to give them a space where they can use their voice and explore their crafts. It's going to be moderated by our poet laureate, Judith Joe. So that'll be great. The first one's January 25th. It's one Thursday a month, 5 dates. So we have that going on. We've also been reaching out to the Doherty Valley National Art Society to work on collaborating on bringing a teen open studio night to the Doherty Station Community Arts Center as well. And aside from that, just opening up our new instructors that we have coming on to include teen specific programming. So definitely trying to address that for sure.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great, appreciate that.
Thank you, Bree.
Any other questions? Yes,
I have
Commissioner.
a question about when she mentioned that, and I am a member of the Dublin San Ramon Women's Club and happen to be the chairman for the art contest that we have. And so I've been working on that. And we will be going to the schools on February. I don't have my notes right in front of me, but the first part of February, we will pick and we go to every school in San Ramon and Dublin. It's open from kindergarten through graduating seniors. And then we have we pick it up in March and then have it professionally judged. Because we usually last year had 300 and some pieces of art. And so that is a challenge then to get it down to select what's going to be displayed. And so that's a real challenge. And then that is displayed at the Lindsay Brown Museum for the month of April. And then we have a reception for the winners and their parents and teachers. So it does take in all areas of students. So it's very successful, but we had to maybe put some limits on some schools because we were getting like 100 pieces from a school. And the year before we had about 600 pieces of art, and there isn't any way we can get it all judged and do it just, so 300 to 400 if we can manage. So I'm in the process of getting art judges.
Great. Fantastic.
You get some very good art, youth that you would be pleased to purchase their art if they would sell it. But it is a really the parents are so supportive of it that we do this every year because the students are doing art. There are not a lot of places they can do that because they all can't be playing sports. So it's a very successful project.
Yes, fantastic. Commissioner?
So the reason I asked the question about the arts and public places program, my mind goes into, it's not just sculptures. I see it as maybe there's music, maybe there's dance, maybe there's pop-ups. So that's why I was curious about, what I heard was it's more limited to more sculpture and public art rather than kind of like what we're talking about here. I'm loving hearing about the upcoming programs, maybe even taking that another step and bringing it out into the community too, making places like that available, and that we advertise that tonight's open, poetry night, or it's, dance or whatever, but it's a public arts and public places program. That's where my mind went why I asked that question. So.
Right. And so the actual program that is going to be reviewed, the current program is actually dedicated money towards public arts. What you just described, we can definitely do independent of that, because this one more has to do with a specific funding source as to how that can be spent. But yes, that is public art. It can be musical, but it does have to be like a wind harp that can be out there, but it has to go through that type of program. Okay, but definitely the staff can look at art in public places as a separate program that is not public art, if that makes sense. Stationary. There you go.
Do a mime troupe.
Yeah.
Cinnamon mime troupe. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Powell? Anything?
I actually hadn't heard about any of the initiatives about teens, so I'm really excited to hear about those at next week's meeting as well. I agree, working on exhibits that feature youth art. I have a lot of peers that I know that are very talented, and I'm sure that they extend across all schools as well. Just in terms of art, I guess I would say that really incentivizing the younger students. It takes a lot of confidence that these students lack at a very young age to display their art. And I think there's some sort of vulnerability in it, which they still kind of have to take the extra step into. So finding a way to incentivize it, which I believe an award ceremony is a really great way to do that. But beyond that would be a really great way to get everyone involved, just because they need an extra push at times.
Good feedback. Thank you. Any other comments? All right, Lisa, Keith, thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Can you
We
recommend?
need to recommend.
Oh,
it.
that's right. We need to recommend
motion
that
to-
we received the report and recommend it to move to the city council for their
Yeah.
approval. Do I have a motion for that?
I recommend that we receive the report, but more importantly, that the report be forwarded to the city council.
I second that.
All right. Is there any other discussion? Well, heck, if there's no more discussion, let's just vote on it.
You know, it's such a bush. It's not movable.
No.
Should have been Steve.
Yeah, this hosting. Sorry.
So why don't we just take a voice vote? All in favor?
I,
Are there any opposed? Well, heck, that sounds like it's moving forward. Unanimous. All right, let's move on to, and again, thank you very much.
thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Thank you, Keith.
This was your dress rehearsal. The real performance is coming
Great
up.
job.
Yes, yep.
Good job.
All right, Forest Hill Farms Program and Project Update 8.2. Director Adams, I saw you were in the on-deck circle getting ready. All
All
right.
right.
So good evening, Chair Dorley, Vice Chair Hill, Commissioner. Pleasure to be here this evening. To provide you with an update on programs and projects that took place at Forest Hill Farms Historic Park in 2023. So before we jump into the meat of the presentation, just a quick background on the actual. They turned off the mic on me. I'm sorry. I'm a loud talker anyway, so hopefully it didn't mess up the recording. And so before we jump into the meat of the presentation, just a bit of information and background information on the park. And so in 1997, the property 16 acres was bequeathed to the city by Ruth Quill Boone. And as part of the Boone Family Park, our farm is known as Forest Home Farms now. It was provided to the city for use as a historic park in memory of her husband, Travis Boone. And after her death in 98, then the park was expanded to a memorial of her as well, and her contributions and generosity to the San Ramon community and her contributions to agriculture or women in agriculture in the San Ramon Valley. So throughout the years, many programs, classes, events, and lots of fun things have happened there on the property, many of which we will discuss this evening. And additionally, a number of restoration projects have occurred at the property, which Mike will discuss a little bit later this evening. And it cannot go without saying that many of these projects have been completed in collaboration with our San Ramon Historic Foundation, which we have a fantastic relationship with. And in addition to all the projects that are going on, the programs, there's a significant amount of maintenance and that Public Services performs at the farm on an ongoing and regular basis, routine and non-routine. And so with a bit of that background information, we'll just go ahead and jump straight into the presentation this evening. And so I will be talking about some of the programs that we offer here at the farm, and I will pass it over to Mike Dodds to talk about the maintenance and projects that were completed in 2023. And so, as mentioned previously, the city runs a number of different programs at Forest Home Farms on a weekly and daily basis. The most prevalent usage at the farm is our educational tours, which is geared towards our second and third graders in the San Ramon Valley Unified School District. And so it's with our Farm Life program as well as with our Victorian Life program. So it encompasses the entire property, including our glass house. And some of the highlights of our educational programs is this year, which we're very excited about, is that we will be bringing back our transitional kindergarten program, which we have not had since 2019, so prior to COVID. And prior to the holidays, basically all of the available tours for TK or transitional kindergarten had filled. So it's incredibly exciting to be able to bring that back to the community. And the educational tours, we have now, this year, we have reached and exceeded the number of tours that we did last fiscal year in 22-23. So for example, with our numbers last school year, 22-23, we had approximately 1,600 students who came through the property as part of the field trip program. Just in fall of 2023, we had just over 1,100 students come through. And so if we meet the same numbers that we had last spring, which we are anticipating that we will,
and including in our transitional kindergartens, we are expecting to exceed that number of 1,600 by over 1,400. So almost doubling the number of students who are able to come through the farm, learn about the history of the valley, learn about the importance of the farm and the programs that we have there. So it's really exciting. Staff is amazing and just excited to have all of those folks come in. And I know the Historic Foundation is equally as excited as us to get that information and the word out to our community. And so I just want to make sure I have my notes here and I want to make sure I'm not missing any of the important pieces here. And so other programs that we, in addition to the educational tours that we offer at Forest Home Farms, is our Saturday Fun on the Farm, which is offered almost every Saturday of the month, depending on if we have special events or if there are holidays. The activities are centered around weekly themes that are often related to the current seasons or things that are happening at that time at the farm. And the Forest Home Farm, the Saturday Fun on the Farm programs are free to the public, and it's a great opportunity for families and community members to be introduced to the farm. We see a lot of families coming out to the farm whose children had actually attended the farm or visited the farm as part of their educational tour with school. And so clearly the parents are getting the information back from the school. They're hearing the fun stuff that the kids did there. And so they want to come out and experience. And with the ongoing different themes, you can keep coming out to the farm and keep having a good time year round. And we have multiple families who come out almost every Saturday to enjoy the activities that we have at the farm. And so in addition to those programs, we also offer our summer camps and some specialty classes. Specialty classes, for example, was a butterfly garden program that we had. We do during the summer, we contract with our preschool instructor to offer Fun on the Farm with Miss Michelle, who runs our Little Sprouts preschool program. And we do that. We offer that program 3 or 4 times a summer, and the camp fills just about every time. And so it's a lot of fun to see the 3 and 4-year-olds out there having just a fantastic time at the farm as well. And so if the educational tours, classes, and camps weren't enough, the city staff also runs a couple of special events each year, which you can see on the screen is our trick or treat on the farm, as well as our holiday on the farm. Both of these events, of which draw over 1,000 people or more to the farm to partake in face painting or magicians, puppet shows, things like that that occur with the 2 events that we offer out there in October and in December. And so it's not quite on the screen here on your slide, but we can't forget about our chickens and our sheep at the farm, because let's be honest, the animals are a giant draw at the farm, and our sheep are probably one of the most popular attributes of the farm. And our contractor, Patsy Galati, she is just incredible, very giving of her time. She will do demonstrations to all of the students, to all the groups, even if she doesn't have one scheduled. If people come up to talk to her and want to know, oh, tell me about the chickens, tell me about the ducks, tell me about the horse, tell me about your sheep, she will take all the minutes out of her day to provide that, because she loves it so much and she loves giving back to the community so much. So we can't forget about our sheep, and we can't forget about our chickens as well. And so, and of course we have our tractor museum, which me personally, I think that's one of the hidden gems of our city. If I have the opportunity, I take people there all the time and say, hey, look at this. This is really incredible. And when I've had the opportunity to be there for special events, I go up there and there's always people who stop me as I'm wearing my staff gear, like, hey, tell me more about this. And so it's always a conversation starter. And so it's an incredible opportunity that we have here in our community. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the Glass House, which is part of our Victorian Life program tour, which the Glass House is also open on Saturdays with our Fun on the Farm program, so that we can bring people through, teach them about the Glass House. But then we also put in different exhibits there. For example, we had our morning tour during October leading up to Halloween, which is an incredibly popular tour that we had at the Glass House. And so with all of those programs that I talked about, staff could not do this without our incredible and dedicated group of volunteers and our docents at the farm. So they're the face of the program. they're the ones who make all the magic happen. So I cannot say enough good things about our volunteers because they're the ones who really make all of this happen at the farm. And then moving to the next slide that we have here, I previously mentioned our partnership with our San Ramon Historic Foundation. And so our Historic Foundation, they offer a few special events at the farm each year. That includes Oktoberfest in October or September, depending, sheep shearing in April, and our summer speaker series. And so all of these are very popular. They help support the farm and bring in large crowds to the park and expose a different group of folks to the farm than some of those programs that I previously mentioned. And so it's an opportunity to show everybody the wonders of Forest Home Farms Historic Park. And in addition to the events that the foundation run, they also have the gift shop on site, which is open on Saturdays and during the special events. And Jill, who primarily runs the gift shop there, she did a fantastic job this year of expanding the gift shop and taking it out to truck time and working with the senior foundation to get a table at the Holiday Boutique. So really seeing that partnership between multiple foundations is incredibly rewarding for staff. And I know for the foundations as well, because seeing how they can team up and help one another to be successful here in San Ramon. And then some of the other events that we have at the farm, it's just fun to say. It's the Hootenanny with the San Ramon Chamber of Commerce. That was one of the big ones that we had at the farm this past year, which brought a lot of the business folks out to the farm, which again, it's all about trying to get the word about the farm out, what we have, what the city has to offer, the types of program to really just get the information out to as many people as possible to say, hey, come look to see what we have because the farm is so unique and special to the city. And so that concludes my portion of the presentation for now. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mike Dodds, who is our Public Services Facilities Program Manager, so that he can talk about some of the maintenance and projects that were completed this year.
Thank you, Commission. I'd like to just take a brief minute to introduce myself. My name is Michael Dodds. Next month will be the start of my 17th year with the city.
Oh, wow.
I started as a technician and moved way up just 3 years ago, becoming a supervisor and now the program manager. I started in our parks department when I was first hired. My background was in facilities, so I was able to join our facility program and then move into our aquatics. So I've had the opportunity to work in all of our buildings, all of our pools. And so that made it a great fit to move to be the program manager of our facility and aquatic program. So I have a great team and we maintain 16 facilities within the city. So Forest Home Farm is one of those 16. As Becky mentioned, it is 16 acres. There are 21 structures on the farm, and we have a staff member allocated for at least 15 hours a week for the site. He spreads that over the 5 days that he's here. And so some of his duties include emptying trash, checking restrooms, graffiti, vandalism, abatement, and irrigation checks, facility checks, making sure nothing's falling apart, checking the lighting of the systems. So he does that as a daily check. Once a week, he'll check the irrigation and blow and pressure wash the areas and inspect the creek. And probably once a month, depending on the wind, he'll turn on the windmill so that the windmill is exercised regularly. So those are a couple of his, weekly and daily duties. And every year before our storms, he goes and checks all the gutters and does all that. So we also have a landscape contractor who's out there weekly, and they mow and blow the areas and address the weeds. Annually, we have a windmill contractor come and inspect and lubricate the windmill so that it will continue to be in good use. And then we also have It's normally several times a year. We have one of our tree contractors come in, inspect the trees, and prune and maintain and take care of ones that have fallen down. So as you can remember, last year we had all those spring storms or New Year's Eve storm. We had several trees that we lost at the farm during that time. So our contractors worked with that. We had lost the water supply to the farm. It crosses the creek and was washed out by debris flowing down. My staff was able to repair that and get water back to the sheep and get the bathrooms back open. So these are some of the things that we take care of there on a weekly, quarterly, and monthly, annually event. We have it all kind of laid out of what we will do. So some of the major projects that we accomplished over the last year was with the foundation, remodeling the garden. I have some slides that will show on that. Our grotto, the sheep barn, again, our storm cleanup. We had one of our contractors come in this last October when we got permission from Fish and Game to go through, clean all the debris behind the creek. They removed at least 2 dumpsters of dead and fallen wood, so that will prevent it from backing up this winter. We also annually have a Parks Make Life Better that we tie in with Arbor Day. So this last year we focused around the glass house. We painted the fences, put in some new plant material and new mulch for pathways. So it looks really good. It was a nice project to have the community involved in. And we also planted a new tree for Arbor Day and had the grand opening of the, the organic garden. Okay, so we'll go to the organic garden. So on the left side of the slide, you can see what it was before. This was a project that was funded by the Historic Foundation and managed by the city. So we had one of our city contractors, GH Hanley, come in and remodel the meat, or who also remodeled the meat locker. He was tasked with this project. What we were able to do is extend the garden by 10 feet. We extended the fence towards the tractor barn an extra 10 feet. This allowed us to make the pathways a little bit larger. We worked on leveling the ground, so the planters became a little larger, the pathways became larger, giving us the opportunity to have larger classes in there, a little more room as the class size increases. We also added a drip irrigation system and a timer because there was issues with the area being watered before, and those were addressed. There was also a new fence installed around the whole perimeter, so everything is nice, uniform, and it looks really great out there. Our grotto, the older pictures on the left, this was several years ago, and it got in a lot worse shape before we were able to get it addressed. This has been a project for several years. We looked at having a consultant come in and come up with drawings of how we can rebuild it. The design just for the drawings was over $60,000. This was a capital improvement project. We were able to design it in-house, working with our planning inspectors to have it built properly in strength. And we designed it to match the existing structure. We were also able to reuse some of the equipment or some of the material. So it is built to the same size and specs of the original structure, reusing the redwood siding around and reestablishing a planter box, seat wall that now houses the bench. And then this was just completed within the last couple of weeks. Again, this is a project that has been on our radar for several years. The floor in the sheep barn. It was pallets and 80 years worth of hay down there. Our staff spent over 90 hours removing the old material out. So there were 3 dumpsters of straw and pallets that we removed. Some of the pallets in the back corners were 3 pallets high. So it was definitely a tripping hazard. We had another one of our contractors come in, lay 4 to 8 inches of base rock, compact that, and rebar to build a 5-inch concrete slab. There's no vehicles that go on this, so this slab will last longer than the rest of the building. There is a center drain. The roof does not leak, but as you can see, there's some air gaps in the siding, so any rain that comes in, if it's driven in, will definitely leak or will definitely go to the drain and drain out. It also gives us the opportunity to wash it down, easier for Patsy, our contractor out there, to move stuff around. My guys built a little deck basically that she can set her hay. It gives it the proper airflow, and it can be relocated as necessary. So I believe that is my part of the presentation.
So before I move on to the next slide, I just want to share a quick story from the sheep barn renovation. I think a couple of our members, our commissioners may already know the story. We were out there, and as Mike mentioned, a lot of hay and a lot of pallets were removed. And I went out there to check on the progress, and Patsy, who we've talked about a few times tonight, she comes up to me, she goes, "Becky, you won't believe it." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm excited. What's going on?" And she's like, "About 15 years ago, I lost a bracelet. And I tore apart." She's like, I didn't know where I lost it. I tore apart, literally took apart an antique chest looking for her bracelet. Couldn't find it anywhere. Nowhere could it be found. When our public services staff was removing the 80 years worth of hay and 3+ layers of pallets, Patsy's in the barn, and she's like, "What is that on the ground?" And it's just this little thing poking up in the hay. She walks over there, she picks it up like, "What is this?" It was her bracelet from 15 years ago. So the likelihood that you couldn't bet on that. And so our new saying, and feel free to take this saying as well, is no longer a needle in a haystack, it's a bracelet in a haystack. So I wanted to make sure that all of you knew that. So it's just that little nugget that really brings home the whole thing. And so, excuse me, Patsy was able to find her bracelet from 15 years ago, but so now she has 2 bracelets because her husband had replaced the one that she lost. So now she has 2. But so that story aside, we'll move on to the next slide. And so I talked about the programs that we do out at the farm. Mike talked about some of the maintenance things that we do at the farm, as well as some of our major projects from 2023. And so looking ahead to 2024, it's the moment that we've all been waiting for. And the city has issued an RFQ for the Boone House preservation. And so with this RFQ that has been issued, it was issued on December 18th. It will be closing on January 19th for submittals of bids. And so the purpose of this is not to do another study. We've done studies, we've done assessments. The purpose of this is to actually have a firm come in, look at the property, review all of the assessments and the studies that have been done, the Boone House Historic Programs recommendations that were presented to this commission in March of 22, to look at all that information and come back to the city and say, okay, this is what needs to be done. And these are the steps that it needs to be done in. Because, for example, we don't want to put a roof on the building if we are going to have to fix the foundation or some of the other things. We want to make sure that we are being good stewards of the funds and making sure that we're doing it in a logical order. And so we are very fortunate that engineering is taking the lead on this RFQ process. And so they will be with the assistance and the input from our Parks and Community Services staff, as well as our Public Services staff. And so it's going to be a longer process. It's not going to be real short because we want to make sure that we get it right. And so it's going to be multiple years. It's going to be, it's dependent on funding when it comes to city council when we're looking at the budget. Once we get this information from the firm, we will then, we're hoping to get some architectural drawings from them too. So all of this information will help staff to be able to go out for grants so that we can try to help get some funding in to fund this project. And so it's going to be a while, but we have taken that the very important first step to get the RFQ issued. And so we are working on that right now. And so very important to all of you as our Parks Commission. You will be engaged in this process when it's the time for that, as well as our Historic Foundation, because they are such good partners with us. And so we want to make sure that all of the main players are here at the table to discuss the future of the Boone House preservation. So with that, that will conclude the presentation tonight, and Mike and I are ready and able to answer some questions. And if we have to, like Keith, we will, throw a lifeline out to Brad and Kathy as well.
Brad, you want to start off? Any lifelines you want to throw out? Okay, all right. Are there any clarifying questions from the commission? I don't have a list here. Anybody? Any comments from the commission?
I got a comment. You guys, thanks so much. Becky, I have two comments.
Yes.
Because you answered one of my questions. Nice job, by the way.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, read my mind. So, one, I think that Forest Home Farms really, we don't talk a lot about it, but someone owns the history of the city, right? And I think it's Forest Home Farms. I mean, all the history, you guys keep that. So, how do we get, you ever heard like living history? How do we like celebrate the city? Is there a way that we can display it or do it through generations, or, talk about the history of San Ramon? And that would be the place for people to go learn about the history of San Ramon. And I think it's an opportunity that we could, share as our city gets older, and then let people know that we are the keeper of the history. I'm not sure how we do that, but when I went over there, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of cool stuff, So how do we make that come to life and communicate? And then the other idea is, I think Earth Day is kind of a big deal, across the United States. Could Earth Day all of a sudden land for San Ramon at Forest Home Farms? And is there a way that we could tie Earth Day into the celebration, obviously, of our Earth and taking care of it? But how do we, I'm not sure what we do as a city for that, but could Forest Home Farms be the landing place to really start educating the city about Earth Day and taking care of it, and look at Forest Home Farms and how do we take care of our city ecologically that way? It's just an idea, but as I read through your packet, it inspired me to like, oh my God, what about Earth Day? So just a thought, you don't have to do it, but anyways, hopefully it helps.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I've
Yep.
made a note of that.
Any other comments or questions? Yes.
Thank you, Becky, and thank you, Mike. Forest Home Farms is near and dear to my heart, and I serve on the Historic Foundation board. And it's just been a pleasure to see how well maintained the property is and just continues to get better. We have a lot of activity on the weekends. There's always people there. And I just have to tell you, it's a destination. It's a regional destination. People who love farms, who want to find fun things to do with their families, they seek out Forest Home Farms. And I'm really proud to have that, as part of our offerings, not just as a resident, but to our regional community. So it's really, really, truly a gem. And I really appreciate all the hard work that you guys do to help maintain it and to improve it and make it a destination for a lot of people. I also want to thank Brad, because I know Brad's been really involved for the past several years working with the foundation. And there's a lot of passionate people on the foundation that want a lot of things to happen. And our role is to partner with the city and to help raise the funds, to help prioritize what we think needs to happen first. I'm excited about the Boone House, stepping back and taking a closer look about what needs to take place. It's, they can't use the bathroom anymore. It's, there's like things that are just not working in the building. And so it's time. And the stove. But if you haven't gone in the house, and I'm just want to invite the commissioners to go in the house. I mean, it is really, that kitchen is incredible. It has got everything, period. Like you've just walked right into the 1930s, and actually, well, the appliances are a little bit like exciting to look at too, and all the same color. But the city has done a lot of really wonderful things to keep that space looking good. The barn, every child that I see at the farm loves the animals, the tractors. The tractor museum, as you mentioned, Becky, is a gem and a half. It is incredible. So if you haven't been lately, I really invite all the commissioners to go and spend an afternoon and walk around, go through the glass house. There are volunteers that donate their Saturdays to give tours. There are just an incredible amount of volunteers within our city that really help give this space life. Question I have, isn't the house going to be 125 years in 2025?
I believe so, yes.
Are we thinking about maybe doing something around that to celebrate that and maybe do some major,
We can we can certainly look
outreach
into it.
and fundraising?
Yeah, I'll make a note of that so that we can look into it.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
So thank you for everything. I just love to be a part of it and want to give it more life and really keep this treasure and protect it.
Great, thank you.
Any other commissioner comments, questions? We got tractors, we got sheep. We're good. Yeah, we're deer and shear.
If I can, I just wanted to take a moment to introduce John Bell, our new division manager with Public Services, will be helping us on this quest of greatness out at the farm. I'm not sure if you met him. He came on board a couple months ago, and so he's going to help us out there as well, him and his team, and helping Mike get the resources he needs. So, anyways, I wanted to. He's been sitting there quietly. We won't make him come up and talk, but anyways,
action speaks louder than words.
There you go.
All right. If there are no further questions, I think we just are providing feedback and receiving the report. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mike,
Thank you,
Becky,
guys.
thank you very much.
Great job.
Welcome aboard.
Yep.
All right. We will go on to 8.3 Team Council application and interview process. And we're going to review the current Team Council application interview process, recommend changes if needed, and select 3 commissioners to read and screen applications and 3 commissioners to conduct interviews. And Director Hyman, I believe the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, you said exactly what I was going to start with. So it's that time of year. We do this every year, and it's really up to the commission to decide how you want to handle the teen council selection process. It's completely your decision, completely your purview. And so that's what we're here to do. It's also okay if you just want to do the same thing we have been doing, but in order to be fair, let's open it up again. So just the background to catch our new commissioners up. The Teen Council was formally developed in 1994. So it's existed for just past 30 years, which is pretty incredible. It's made up of 17 local teens and 2 alternates. The basic plan is the Parks Commission screens and interviews candidates for the council on an annual basis and you provide that recommendation to City Council, who then appoint the teens. They're one-year terms. The current system for application and interview has worked. It has been adjusted over the years to address issues kind of as they arise. The system was originally, the one that we have now was originally created to manage the large number of applications that were being submitted and focus more on screening teens out based on errors in the application than on selecting the best teens for the teen council. So over the last few years, we've kind of course corrected on that and shifted back to content coupled with that interviews, and it seems to have worked well. The rating of the applicants has been approved with the addition of that rubric that helps score the individual merits of each application. That's helped create more consistency in our process. In your staff report, it shows the number of applications received each year, the number that were screened out, and then the number of interviews conducted. Where we ended a few years ago was that about 39 interviews was about all that could be done. And even at that, it's quite a challenge. So as you can see, last year we had 84 applicants, so 45 got screened out in the process, 39 interviewed. The year before it was 50 were screened, only 10 had to be screened out to get to, again, that magic number of 39 or 40. So the current process is that staff start by reviewing each application for completeness. So if somebody completely doesn't fill out the application and they just have their name on it, we're gonna screen them out at that point in time. If I think what Christy used to do too is if there was something that she noted, but it wasn't too egregious, she'll just tell you about it. So that you're screening, we have on the rubric ways that you can deduct points. 3 commissioners review the applications using the rubric as a guide and assign a numerical score to each application. The top 39 applicants, based on the scores, are invited for interview. 3 commissioners conduct 10-minute interviews over the course of 3 nights. The interview panel then makes a recommendation to the full commission based on the interviews primarily, but they've also got the application and the scores, as you can get into some great tiebreakers at some point where you're like, these kids are amazing. Those that are disqualified based on the initial screening or did not score high enough for an interview or were not selected after the oral interview receive a letter thanking them for their application and encouraging them to apply again or get involved as an ambassador. Current process is effective, but it has been suggested in the past by commissioners that the interviews be conducted over 4 nights rather than 3, just because it's a lot, or that the number of candidates be brought down to a lower number in order to make the interview portion of the process more manageable. In addition, staff received the attached letter during the summer recommending a change in methodology and the number of candidates selected per school for consideration by the commission, in that there were so many more kids from Doherty Valley High School than Cal, and that maybe that should be more balanced. The process used to screen the applications and select candidates to recommend to the city council, again, is your purview. So today I'm looking first for direction on the application process, and then second, identification of which commissioners are going to do which job. We've included the timeline, so you can get a sense of, if you're not around when they're doing the interviews, that wouldn't be a job for you, because we can't. It's easier if we can just get them scheduled at one time, and we do this very early in this month of January, simply because when we didn't used to do that, we could never get everybody together to manage this. The interviews are done via Zoom, and that we've continued to do them that way because it's been the most convenient. Correct?
Correct.
Correct.
So with that, I'll hand it off to all of you to decide what you want to do, and we are happy to do whatever you'd like us to and get this organized for you so that we can do the teen council interview process.
All right, Commissioner Petapoli, do you have any comments, feedback on the process, since you've undergone the process or familiar with the process? You are our resident expert.
So I myself have gone through this process twice, so I guess I can speak to it when I say that it's a pretty simple process. It's not really complicated. I think it's more complicated for you guys making the decision in the end. The one thing I did notice, like I believe we received a letter as was mentioned. There was an overwhelming amount of Doherty Valley High School students this year, I think above quorum. So ideally, we won't even be able to meet in school if we ever wanted to hold an event or anything. That being said, it is kind of tough, I guess, to kind of filter the number of students or applications you get from each school. In the past, we've seen historically that like Doherty Valley students tend to be more involved in the community because they get marketing in such a way. Just because a lot of the times the outreach tends to go to them and we actually read through the newsletters. I think that's not as big of a deal or as much focused in other high schools. So I think maybe the way to combat that is really pushing through the advertising for other high schools, maybe through newsletters. I'm not sure how many of you know about this, but at schools now we use Schoology. In the past it was School Loop. But we have a way to add announcements, and I think a lot of students really do read those versus newsletters. So maybe having staff find a way to approach admin to get those announcements on Schoology, and that way the students are kind of seeing the advertisements as well. I know that the number of applications have risen throughout the years, but I think the way to get the diversity in the types of schools represented in this council is to really just focus on the advertising. Other than that, I think that the application process is great. Not really many changes recommended, only unless they make it easier for you guys.
Okay. And I would add that, of course, there is consideration when you're doing an evaluation for a little bit more representation among the possible school locations, but only as a secondary qualification. I mean, the first qualification would always be, the student themselves and what, what their qualities are, as opposed to just happenstance what school you attend. But it is, one of the criteria that is, I would say, secondary would be, let's see what kind of, diversity we can get regarding location and et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other, I'll put my comment first, which I usually don't do, but I'll just say, I do agree that there should be more days and fewer interviews per session. I would actually recommend 5 days, because if we got 40, then we're doing around, about 8 a night. And that would also allow more time per evening to put together, a collaborative evaluation discussion at the end. So I would actually, suggest that we go to 5 days, and since it's on Zoom, it could be, hey, you go between 4:30 and 7. And it could be 3 days one week, 2 days the next week, and we're done. But it doesn't, really, it provides a little bit more freshness to the process and also time to have a daily discussion. So I'll put that on the table. Any other comments, Commissioner Reed? We'll just go through the gamut here.
Yeah, I mean, I have 2 comments. What I would tell you is, I think the Rubik's, cube, I don't know, what do we call it, the Rubik's? Anyways, how do we differentiate between good, fair, poor, good, adequate, as you read this? Because all of a sudden everything becomes a blur. And I did the 141. What we do in our company is, it's very clear what fair is. It's very clear what adequate is. And I think it would help a lot as we do scoring. We need to define it a little bit better. Because it just kind of all runs together, and they're all so good. I just think it would, and I would help write it, but we just got to figure out what truly is excellent, what truly is good, because it helps commissioners to go along. I think anyways. And then the other thing is, I wonder if we change the questions every now and then, because everyone's going to know what the question. I guess it's not that big a deal.
I think we did a couple of years ago.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we modified some of the questions a couple of years ago.
Yeah, everyone kind of knows. If that's not a big,
Yeah.
that's not a big deal.
Put
And
a
then-
D instead of a the.
And then, Will, if we do go a couple nights, I mean, we need a break in between, just because.
Oh, no, absolutely.
We
Like
gotta
I-
exercise, and because it's just,
Yeah.
it's just a burnout, you know what I mean? So,
Well, also, if we do that, we might do, 3 nights one week, 2 nights the next week.
yeah,
But I think it also will help keep things fresh if we're not doing 13 interviews. Because by the time you get to the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th, it's kind of like,
Well, we want to be able to bring 100% of ourselves to the interview.
Exactly.
And be doing the right amount every night, but able to space it so we're able to do
Yes.
that every other night.
Exactly.
I'm in favor of that.
Cool.
I like 4, but we just gotta be efficient with it. So that's really the big one for me. Is how do we define the Rubik's Cube? And I think it's, as our newer commissioners come on to understand, because after like 10, they're like, oh my God, they're just all so good and you redo them again. So it will help guide it a little bit.
Yeah.
It saves rework.
All right. Commissioner Dave?
I didn't really have any comments. It looked good to me. The only thing I was curious is like, why does it have to end on April 1st? It's just a very basic question. It seems like the more days that you would have available, the more chance.
You mean in regards to the
Yeah, so-
interviews? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. The interview, you have commission interviews, you say select 3 days, or is Will suggesting 5 out of 9 days? I'm just curious why it has to be April 1st if we're not doing the appointments till April 10th.
You don't, well, there's a timing issue, so you could you could come forward more, so we can juggle the schedule, but the packets for the commission have to go to the city clerk the Wednesday prior to
That's
the
fair.
meeting. And so, and then you back up, well, someone's got to prepare the lists and make sure
understood.
they're all done. And so that's how we've created it, but we can wiggle that timeline around. If what you want to do is have more nights, then we'll play with the timeline.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there's just that process
Yeah.
between preparing it, getting it in the packet with the 72 hours and then getting it to city council and, a timeline.
The Brown Act, yes. Okay.
Vice Chair Mitra.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, Dolly. I don't have anything very specific, but gone through few times, 2-3 times. I think the process works well in general. There could be some changes here and there. Like one of the changes I definitely encourage is increasing the number of days for the interviews, because I can definitely see after 10 interviews, you just want to get it done with. And that is very unfair to the kids that is coming on after that next, right? So definitely I would encourage that. Last year I was not part of that because my kids were were the applicants, so I opted out. But this year I will definitely join. I would love to join.
Great.
So, yeah.
Well, no matter how you slice it, it's hard to review them because it's hard to make selections, and then it's hard to interview because it's hard to pick. So, I don't know. I do agree, maybe if we extend the length of time for the interviews, I think that would be helpful. 4 or 5 days doesn't matter to me. I think that the strong candidates surface, and you see it in the written form and you see it in the interviews. So I find that they bubble up for me. And so, I don't find like it's extremely daunting to make that decision. I think that you see the leaders surface up. We had talked about in the past, maybe doing this, having the kids interact together. Do you remember that? We had talked about maybe having them, problem solve or do any kind of like group activity. I just want to ask our student commissioner, would you see that there be any value in adding something like that?
I think it's an interesting idea. I guess I'd have to hear a little more of the specifics. Like, would it be like a group interview? Is that what you're suggesting?
I think we talked about having a group. Yeah, it would be a group interview, but it would be given something to process together, see how you work together, how you would come to a conclusion, how you'd work together as a team. Because there had been some feedback in the past that students were not stepping up and volunteering and getting involved, and that we didn't really get that from the interview, the short interview, and we didn't get that from the application. So I'm just curious. I mean, it's just one more step. I think that the process itself now does work. I think, like I said, because I see the leaders bubble up to the top. For me, of course, there's always a few that it's like, oh, this is a really tough decision. But overall, I think it works. So I think the other comment I wanted to make was about the outreach at the different schools. And I wanted to ask you again, do you see any other way besides just advertising? Are alumni going back and talking at their high school about what they got out of the program? Are there other ways that maybe we could help promote it at some of the other schools that have low applications?
I think the alumni could be pretty useful. That being said, honestly speaking, for high schoolers, they don't really listen to presenters that well. They do take it, but oftentimes with a grain of salt. So it's just not the best approach. That's just what I've seen at my school. It could be a completely different story at other schools, but I'd like to think it's pretty similar. There is value in it. It's just not a guaranteed value. I think students are more likely to absorb media rather than more of a personal experience, just because they haven't made a connection to that person. So how do they know for sure? And in terms of like media, it's just like looking and viewing at media, if that makes sense.
I think part of me is like, what are you getting out of it? It's like, why are you doing this? And what did you get out of the experience, and telling that story to the new group that might be applying? It's like, is it just for something on the resume, but what else did you get out of this experience? What did you learn?
This is just kind of me, like kind of brainstorming a little bit here, but I applied to an internship program a couple years ago, and one thing that they had on their website was like a video put together by the interns at the end of their internship of kind of just like what they had seen in the office, what they had learned, personal experiences. Maybe not like having alumni visit the schools, but maybe starting next year, I don't know if this is possible for this year, but having the teen council work to create a video of like maybe what they've accomplished, because we have presentations at the end of the like year at the council, the city council, and here as well, where we talk about everything we've accomplished. And I feel like the description on the website it's pretty vague. There's not a lot of depth to it. So if there's some other way to get a little more detailed information to students out there, they'd definitely be more interested if they knew what they were walking into, just because the information currently presented is so vague.
You mean like an Instagram post?
Yeah, maybe like a reel or maybe something short.
Right.
Right. But I'm also thinking,
City doesn't do that.
but I'm also thinking what you got out of it personally. You know,
Yeah,
what
like-
growth took place for you this past year, having been on the teen council? We accomplished these things, but I personally learned this about myself. I gained these skills.
Yeah, I guess like a part of that video, if it was like say 5 minutes long, like maybe 3 of the teen council members they have like a short quick interview where they talk about, so what did I like gain from this personally, and then like we like shift clips and then we talk about, oh, we did this year, oh, we did this year, and we talk about, like, for example, we can feature the teen job fair, something like that, and that way we're exposing the audience to not just like activities that the teen council does, but also like the personal gains.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah,
We can do it Tuesday night.
yeah.
Stay after the meeting a little bit. Commissioner Carroll.
Well, I think I have to agree with Commissioner about that we should have some more situations between excellent and medium and whatever, because sometimes it gets, and I've done a lot of screening, but sometimes you have to go, you read it, and then maybe a day or 2 later, you go back again and see what you've rated this one, and you read this one again, and then maybe you change, because it really gets down to the really nitty gritty. Because it's hard.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Commissioner Carroll.
Sure. So I think I might be the only one up here, except Student Commissioner Tadapali, who actually did serve on the teen council. In fact, Commissioner Lopez Lucy was the one who interviewed me almost 20 years ago, back in 2005. So I've been on that side of it. I've never been on the this other side of it. So I'm pretty excited to see how that shakes out. I think I can only speak to the experience I had at the time. At that time, it was not a concern about the membership of schools on the teen council, because Doherty Valley had not even opened yet at that time. So it was pretty much all Cal High. I remember we did talk about, there was some concern among the teen council at that time about whether we'd get enough interest from Doherty Valley High once it opened up to join the teen council. Clearly not a problem anymore. So I'm glad to hear that. I do think Commissioner Osland makes a good point with kind of wanting to encourage maybe a team, solving a problem as a team as part of the process. I do remember it was very cutthroat. They're very competitive among the people trying to go for those teen council spots. So I don't know how well that would work initially. But I think that's kind of where the whole what did I learn from the teen council? How did I grow as a person, where that comes in? Because going into the teen council, I think a lot of the people who apply for it are just doing it for a college resume, in all honesty. Yeah, just to check off that box. And then it's only after they serve and kind of get involved that they actually gain more insight, more involvement, more appreciation.
Good point.
So I think catching that at the end, maybe by current teen council members recording a testimonial or something of that nature is the way to go about that. I think the questions and the rubric are good. I think the process is good. Yeah, I think overall the city's done a good job hammering things out in the years since I served.
I might get a testimonial from you.
Yes, student commissioner has one more thing.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. No
I
apology
think
necessary.
one thing we heard about earlier was like the group interview process, and I was just thinking back to other interviews I've taken a part of before. Group interviews normally they tend to work, but only in very specific situations. I think in this case, we're gonna have a pretty wide range of students, like going from the maturity of like a freshman to a senior, for example. There's no way we can compare them. Like it's just not fair to them. I think more so maybe asking behavioral questions, maybe like situational questions. So like if this is the issue you were presented with, what would you do? I think that's a bit of a better approach to kind of asking those questions that would see how these students would react in the moment. I think it's a better measure of their capabilities as well.
Yeah, no, I would agree, because when you get into that Hollywood Squares kind of interview process, it's tough to put a measurement on it. Because it's a very short time frame. And it's, the interaction is all online, and it's just not gonna have that, that degree of problem solving that you see.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I apologize. Well,
Again?
Commissioner Durlick, the question came up last year about current teen council members interviewing and their attendance and, sharing that with the interview committee, and it might have been in the packet, I might have missed it, but what is the guidance on that for as we go through the interview with the current members who are applying and with, us seeing that data?
Yeah, I think that we provided it last year and we can provide it again, which was just the attendance. So you have it. It doesn't have a score place, I think, in the application review. I think it becomes maybe some of those deciding factors when you're in the interviews and you're down to that last thing and you're like, what do we do here? Well, then you can look at their attendance. And if we have somebody that had really lousy attendance and maybe not high marks for following through on their projects, then that's probably the piece that makes them go, okay, wait a minute, maybe we should. If you want, we can add it as a score for attendance, or we can put something in like that if that's easier for you. We hadn't done that so far, but happy to give it a try.
I would say it's really helpful information. And that we don't need to score, but if I've sat through a lot of meetings where our student commissioners running the meetings, and it's just hard when people aren't there. So I think that, having that information on attendance is pretty important. I'm not sure what you would think. So, but I've had to sit through your meetings, and it's hard sometimes when no one's there.
Yeah, I agree. I think also attaching like who is submitting their volunteer hour logs, you can see what people are accomplishing, you can see what they're doing. And I think it's the most accurate representation of the contributions that these people are making to the teen council.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's the only other metric that we could look at on the.
And would you
That
want
stat
those
sheet.
with both the application review and at the interview? I just want to make sure we get it in the right spot.
Yeah, because traditionally they've not been with the actual paper review.
They
It's
have-
only been with the interview.
Would that be helpful? That's the next question.
I think it would, I would think definitely, especially on their attendance, and it would be helpful too if they have volunteer hours just with the city, or have they done some more outreach.
Yeah, we have access to their city lights volunteer hours, the ones we asked them to record. So we can easily provide that to the screeners and everybody. So we'll just do it for the whole group. of applicants to start with, and then just the ones that get interviewed. So you'll have both.
But then we're going to have those that are returning that are going to have a different, you know,
Oh,
pers-
I mean, it's just the returning.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's no attendance on the rest of them, and there's
Mhm.
I don't have volunteer hours on the rest of them. There's a question in there about volunteerism.
Right. We asked them what, if you haven't served, what else have you
Yeah.
been doing around volunteer? So.
Yeah.
But that helps on it if they would include that in their, essay or whatever. That really helps also to see how they have done outreach, other than maybe just being on the teen council or not outreach with other areas. That makes a big difference on how you might, that might be another point or two, that would help you consider, which would break a
Mhm.
tie of somebody that you've got 2 or 3 that are really close. I think it would be helpful.
Great. So can I repeat back what I think it is we want to do, just to make sure I got it? So we're going to look back at the rubric and add a few more definers into each of those areas to try and even give them a little more. I mean, there's a lot there, but I understand it gets really difficult. We're going to provide the attendance record and the volunteer record for the existing teen council so that those that reapply, you would have that. We're going to extend the interviews was it 4 nights or 5?
I like 5 myself.
I think 4 only, let's try 4. Let's try 4 and then if we feel like we
We're
need
still
another-
at 9 point. Huh?
If we're doing 4, how many?
It'd be
That's
10.
basically 10 a night.
Yeah,
instead of
we're doing
8.
15 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, 5 and
As long as we can keep the break in there, I think that's doable.
Okay.
All right, so 4 nights. And then we're going to work with our teen staff to see if we can do some video testimonials to help advertise more to the other schools.
Yeah.
And try and make that happen. And then in regards to the comment you got from the seniors who came out of the senior center, in regards to balancing the schools, you'll just do that as you look at it as it seems appropriate to you.
I don't.
Well, you can't legislate who applies and,
I got it. I just want to make
Yeah,
sure that we
right.
addressed it. With what
yeah, no, it is a secondary, I mean, and you can use that term if you want or not, and just say it is one of the qualifiers that is taken into account when a decision is made.
Okay, got it. So then the only other thing I need is to know who's doing which job.
Who would like to do the review? Screen, yeah, the review.
So Carol, screener.
Well, I'll do whatever people want to do. So let's do the.
I screened last year. I'd like to interview this year.
I can go ahead and screen. That's fine.
Oh, okay. All right.
I can do interview.
Okay.
I didn't catch that part.
All right, so,
Interview.
all right, so Dave, you're gonna screen?
Yeah, I'm a screener.
You're a screener?
Yeah.
What do you
Not
wanna
a
do?
screamer, okay.
Interview.
Okay, interview for Jewel Martha. Carol's in it. What do you want to do, Kyle?
I'm interested in interviewing, but I mean, I'm happy to pay my dues and do screening first if
I'm a
that's the
screener.
commission's preference.
It just, again, what do you all want? So,
Well, what-
Okay, I'd like to interview.
Well, we only need 6 people, so as the chair, if there's 3 and 3, then I'm the backup.
Okay, where am I?
Right,
so it's between you and Kyle. So it's Kyle.
I will interview, I'll screen.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome, Kyle. Support me. You'll enjoy it. It's fun.
Okay, so
So
I
you
have,
can help me screen. I'd love to help screen.
so I have Carol, Dave, and Steve on screeners, and my interviewers are Julia, Partha, and Kyle.
All right, there you go.
Perfect.
And
All
we'll do
right,
that for 4.
4 nights, and we'll redo the schedule and get it out to you to make sure that we've got the dates that work and the time that works. So,
Yeah, yeah, and I'll be a backup if anybody needs it.
all right, well
Okay.
done.
We don't have any public comment? Anybody online? Anybody up this late? Anybody out there? Hello? Okay, well then that, I believe, takes us to the next agenda item,
Which is really easy.
which is really easy, which is 8.4 selection of advisory committee interview panel.
Yeah, so annually, half the terms of the advisory committee members are up. and we need to conduct interviews. So I just need to identify some volunteers that would be willing to conduct interviews approximately between February 22nd and March 4th. Once we have all the applicants, our staff will schedule, but it's helpful to have a list of commissioners who are available in that time frame and willing to assist, because we have to re-interview everybody. So it's not as laborious potentially as the teen process, but it's really hard when you've got all of a sudden 3 people you need to interview and nobody is available. So
What's the time frame?
it is between February 22nd and March 4th. And those ones I believe we have done live.
On March 4th.
Yeah. And again, we back up to a time frame to get it to the commission and then get it on to the
Right, right,
council
right.
so they can hit
And-
the
and-
April deadline in person.
I thought we were doing those Zoom. We've done them Zoom, right?
I think the committees went back to live.
Can I ask a question?
Kyle and I interviewed live.
I thought the interviews were still being done
Yeah.
online.
The last one we did with the Arts Advisory was,
I'm so sorry. Well, I
No, I
stand
think-
corrected.
I
Yeah.
think we've still been doing them via Zoom.
That was
But we
Mr.
can
Madison.
change that if people want to, but I think that's the last set. We've been still doing them online.
Okay, I stand corrected.
So,
Christy handled it.
Commissioner,
so on the advisory committee, so it's like,
Mhm.
all right, so can we separate and do, or do you need one person to do all the advisory committees?
We try to do the same people for each one. So at least if you're doing the arts advisory interviews, then you should do all the people that are candidates for that. And if you're doing seniors, you should do all of them for that. So that it doesn't, have conflicting opinions about who should be placed.
Yeah, but okay, that's super helpful. So we can say I'm available, but you would assign us,
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah, and
those
certainly-
two committees primarily?
it's seniors and library and arts.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So how many on each are coming up?
Half. So if the committee has 7, then there's 3 or 4, depending on what year we're on.
Gotcha. And that includes the library as well? Is there a same consistent? I
Every
mean,
one of them, because
yeah.
half the terms roll over and half the terms are there. Or
Okay,
they might have an opening. And so when you advertise, if the people want to reapply, as you all know who have done this, you have to reapply and re-interview. We're trying to still fix that part of the process. So that maybe we don't have to do that so often, but that's the fairest. And if you have a bunch of people from the outside that
That's
happen
what
to
I
come
said.
in for something, then suddenly you might have a very large pool. So let's take, for example, the Arts Advisory Committee. It's a somewhat popular committee. And on occasion, so everybody wants to stay on, you've got those 4 interviews, and then you get 4 or 5 new people. Well, now we have 9 interviews. So that's a chunk and can take some time and energy, and then you multiply that by all the committees. Some years, maybe we only get 1 or 2. Some years we don't even get enough. So it's hard to say till we get to it, but that's why I'm looking for making sure I've got people who are willing to do it.
okay, and it's in between February 22nd and March 4th.
So Kathy, would you want the people to have to do all 3 of these committees, or could you just say, I'd rather do one of these, or?
Yeah, if everybody here is willing and able that week, then we would probably try and take the liaison for the committee as at least one person, and then we just need
Gotcha.
another one.
Yeah, so it'd be 2, 2, and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just know that there's some I'm more versed in than others, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
no, you read, right? You read?
on
So then-
occasion,
Then the library committee would be just like.
not the agendas, but everything, yes, yeah.
We are aware of that, so like naturally, I would think you would be great at the arts, although a good number of the people in the room would be good at that one too.
Yeah, so what's the availability? Anybody not available in that time?
I'm in
Let's
town.
let's
so
go
I'm
with the
good.
negative.
That's good. So then is that a hand raise from everybody? You're willing to help out
Yeah,
with this?
well, put our hands up, we're all in.
Well, no, yeah, if nobody has said they weren't, so we are all.
Kathy asked for a hand raise. I was just-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Making sure. Okay. Perfection. Thank you.
So do you wanna put assignments together right now?
No, we'll take care of it because we'll have staff reach out. and
No, I
get
meant
it
to
done.
divide up among
Oh.
the committees.
Yeah, if you want to.
All right, so senior committee, okay.
I'll do it with Carol. Oh, sorry.
Well, we need 3 people.
Okay, well, look at us. That'd be
You need
awesome.
3 or 2?
I think we've done it with 2.
Two
If
is
you
good.
feel like you're gonna get stuck in a tiebreaker, you can make it 3, but I think 2 is probably fine.
Yeah, if you have a tiebreaker, call me up.
I won't have one because I serve on the open space. And I don't. interview those
No,
folks,
exactly,
so.
right, yeah. I don't know who interviews those
You-
people. Who does interview those people?
City council.
Oh, the city council. Oh, my goodness gracious.
What do you mean you won't have one? You can do a senior, I don't care.
But you won't have a teen council either, other, you know.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
See.
Yeah, I'm with, I got you.
Okay,
That's
so
what
I understand.
Carol and Steve,
Are doing the senior
senior,
advisory.
okay, library,
The liaison, so that makes sense.
okay,
Somebody want to help Kyle?
I'll have Kyle.
Thank you, Julia.
okay. And then we have the, you're gonna let me off the hook again, Arts Advisory Committee?
Yeah, I'll do Arts Advisory Committee. I can also be a backup for library if one of them can. make
Okay,
it.
anybody else for Arts Advisory?
No, what's that?
Oh, I guess it's me, because I'm the liaison, okay.
Yeah, if you want, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
You-
All right,
You want one?
Whatever way I can help,
I mean, you'd be great on art, so obviously, but
can we back up or whatever you guys want? I'm fine, I'll be available.
Yeah, it's whatever you
Well,
prefer.
I think the two is fine, and if one of us discovers we're not available, then we gotta
Then
back
I'm the
up, we
backup.
gotta back up. Steve, you're a backup, right?
Please?
Seniors.
Oh, you're on the senior, okay, okay.
Wow, ouch.
It's a short-term memory issue.
No, we should interview you.
I didn't say you were old, I said you
Commissioner
would
Beecher's
remember
backup. Is
this.
that what I understand?
Yeah,
Perfect.
backup.
Got it.
I was insinuating myself too, I said we would both remember this.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
Wow. Sid Caesar, show.
1 year I want to do art, so I think that'll be interesting.
I got it. All good.
Okay, so we're progressing quite rapidly, I believe, to, isn't it number 9?
Yep, I believe it's our rec report.
All right,
So just a couple of quick highlights, and you're very lucky because you've got public services in the house today. So any great questions you can ask them. But if you look at the rec report, you'll see lots of holiday happenings in December. I feel like we hit the holidays hard this year between the Baja, the tree lighting, letters to Santa, concerts, holiday on the farm, and the senior center holiday variety show. So there's a lot of great information on all those programs. Also, I think really noteworthy and interesting that 900 people showed up for a swim meet in December because it was cold. So I found that to be interesting information. And I even know that we have all these great swim meets and our aquatic staff do an amazing job, and public services makes the pools pristine. So much so that people really love our pools. But I think it's noteworthy. We hold about 25 meets a year. And when you think about, you extrapolate out that 900 through all those other meets, and that we could get 900 kids and families to show up in December, one of the busiest months to swim, I think is amazing. So talk about good health. And like I said, there's information on public services, but they're here. So if you have questions on that. Excuse me.
all right.
So no vandalism.
Steve, you gonna ask the question?
Huh?
You're gonna ask the question?
Would you like me to ask a question?
Yeah.
I only had one question, as I went through it. On like our budget stuff, like on fees, sorry. Like on the facility stuff, I just was worried, if we're over under our budget, right? So we brought in 400, or sorry, it's been a long night. We brought $408,000 in, no, $48,888. I didn't know if that's good or bad, but I divided and we're at 60%. It sounds good, but then I went into group rental. So it'd just be helpful. Are we on target or not on target? You know, so besides that, I thought everything looked good, and I was happy to see there's just no vandalism. So this month. So I don't know if we're doing anything special to prevent that, but that was my other question on that. So
I think it was the clause factor.
what is that?
It was the clause factor.
We're standing.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see. So especially I was super bummed last month hearing about the bathroom that got torched.
Yeah, so last month we had the bathroom, and then just this Monday, we discovered 5 broken windows at Armador Rancho Park.
Oh,
So we've made a police report, and we're checking the surveillance cameras to see if we are able to catch anything, but my staff has let me know that the contractor will be out tomorrow to replace those, so there was no effect on any rentals. The building was still usable.
So when we have vandalism like that, where does the budget come for that? Do we not budget for vandalism?
No, we find a way to pay for it and then we'll go to council. I know we just went for mid-years for some vandalism and traffic accidents. It's a way to identify to council. These are expenditures that were not expected. In the rare case where we're able to catch a vandal, I know the old bathroom that was here that was torched before City Hall was built. There was somebody that was found out, arrested. I don't know what repercussions there were. There, I believe, is some insurance that covers any of this. Yeah, so we do have some insurance that will cover this. But we find a way to absorb it in our operating budget.
So there's no reserve fund for vandalism or, acts of God or things like that?
No, we find a way to make it work, or we'll go in a mid-year adjustment and look to get funding from council, either from different sources.
Okay.
I will say while you're here, I mean, what you guys do over the weekend to make the parks clean, garbage empty. I think our parks, Kathy always says, well, not Kathy, I think we say a lot, we have best parks, but you guys do a great job from a facility standpoint and
Yeah,
you
we
see
have.
the usage park, so nice work. By the way.
Thank you. We do have park staff that works year round. So every weekend, there's 3 to 4 people that work in the parks, cleaning and emptying garbage. For the facilities, we have an aquatic person 7 days a week, 365 days a year, Christmas, every day to maintain our pools. And then just this break between Christmas and New Year's, we were able to get some maintenance done. So it was some warranty work that we had to shut down the pool down. So we were able to use that break in programming to make those repairs.
Cool. All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the maintenance report or 9?
The one thing I was
0.
gonna just add on on top of that is we will go after a person if they catch somebody, the perpetrator, if they actually catch them, then they will attempt to get the funds for them to pay for it. That happened with one of the bathrooms a while back. But we have to prove it and we have to be all of that and then they will attempt it. So it's just a side point. Sorry, Commissioner Lopez Lucy, go ahead.
I just had a question. Do we have a contractor that does the cleaning of the bathrooms at different places?
Yes, we do have contractors. We have one that does all of our parks and they are assigned either 5 days or 7 days a week. So Central Park or Sports Park or 7 days a week. And then we also have a janitorial contractor for the facilities. Some sites are 5 days a week, where others are 7 days a week. So our community centers are 7 days a week. And they're given a weekly schedule of all the programming so they know what events and parties and rentals there are.
Well, my question was, is it that at the Forest Home Farms, the last time I used that, it really needed to have a really deep cleaning around the edges and everything. They were really pretty grimy and all. And I know that that's at a farm and I was raised on a farm, so I know all the dirt and all. But I think that one should be looked at.
Yes, we do every once in a while get these complaints and we work with our contractors and their staff to get those addressed. And typically city staff will go in and make sure it's not totally destroyed before the public gets there.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, then we'll move on to item number 10, Commission Liaison Reports and Announcements, and we'll start on this side. Commissioner Levin.
Okay, thank you. So I covered the January 9th City Council meeting, which was last night. It was a pretty brisk meeting, about an hour long. There were a couple of items here. There was the presentation of the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Award, which I can't give him points for brevity in the title, but yeah, it's, I know from my day job, this is actually a very difficult award to obtain. It's not just a matter of just turning in paperwork. You have to, it represents a lot of work, a lot of sound financial practices and transparency on staff's part. So it's definitely a big deal, and the city residents should feel very good about San Ramon obtaining it because it's very important. There was also a resolution to recognize, I'm sorry, to authorize a CalPERS annuitant status for Maria Ferner, the former director of the Public Works Department who recently retired. They wanted to grant an exception to the 180-day waiting period so that she can serve as interim department director while they do the recruitment for her replacement. There was also a public hearing set for February 13th next month for the repealing and replacing of the citywide traffic impact mitigation fees for fiscal year 2023-24. And so just so anyone out there listening isn't confused by this, these are not fees paid by residents. These are fees that developers pay to the city to mitigate the impact of traffic on new developments. So anything existing that's already been approved isn't going to be impacted by this, but any new developments going forward would be subject to the increased fees. And that's what the public hearing in February will be about. And then the only other real item of note was the city council approved the new 2024 city council liaison appointments. So that's done. So you might see some new faces at some of the committees you go to. And the only other thing I wanted to note is tomorrow, there will be a library advisory committee meeting, which I'll be attending. It is the first one since early 2020, 2019, that will be actually held at one of the libraries. They've all been either Zoom or at the community center since. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's all I have.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carol?
Yes, I attended the December meeting for the senior center. And it was very enlightening because the main speaker was, and unfortunately, I didn't bring the name with me, but she works with the ACI with the garbage. And it was very interesting. You know, basically she would like everybody to be very prevalent in, you know, going through their garbage and putting it in the correct can, you have the green, blue, or gray, and encouraging, and the city was doing this because they had wooden spoons, I believe it was, at the art and when they did that. So she was encouraging if groups can use more of real silverware and, you know, don't have all the plastic. And that she was, you know, encouraging people, you know, with your water bottles to, you know, you're doing very well having those. But it was really interesting because in being in with club and foundation and whatever, you can see when you have functions that we don't do very well in doing our, you know, having people the way we do our garbage, that we just shove everything in one bin and something. And but she did advise us, you know, some of the items like what do I want to say, the foam, like that is just not recyclable whatsoever. So wherever you put it, it's not going to get, you know. And then she was telling us how they go through the recycling. So it was very interesting. And the senior center is doing very well with their recycling and everything. So that was interesting. And everybody was attentive and reported on their reports. And but that was their main issue was that. So that was interesting. Which can for recycling, yes.
Okay. Great.
Yep.
Me?
Yes, sure.
Okay, Open Space Advisory Committee met on Monday, 8:30 a.m., January 8th, and we had a presentation given to us by Scott Cole, the new Deputy City Manager, and it was all about our financial outlook for 2024 and funding needs. It was a really good presentation, and I don't know, Kathy, if that might be something we could bring. It'll come here. So that, yeah, it was very informative, and he did a great job by unpacking it and making it very simple for all of us to understand, and where we kind of rank within our regional community here with Livermore and Pleasanton, Dublin. And I know town of Danville wasn't on a lot of his graphs, but we could really see where we fit and how fiscally sound we are. So getting that award, we should be very proud. So that was the first presentation. And then the second was a discussion about our 2023 annual report and goals and objectives for 2024. So stay tuned.
All right.
Oh, and
Happy
since
trails.
it's I just want to put another plug in for the crab feed, the San Ramon Historic Foundation crab feed on January 27th. It's a really fun evening. So if you haven't signed up, please do.
If you're not a crab. Okay, Partha.
You wouldn't want to be a crab because you're gonna get eaten.
All right. Planning Commission meeting on second January was canceled. So, no update.
Wow, you get the technology one, you get EDAC, and you get planning commission.
It's those are you, right? Yeah, I was there for 2 years without any meetings.
I know.
But planning commission is pretty good, so they have it. So the 2nd January, of course, for obvious reasons. they
Yeah,
canceled it,
yeah,
so.
yeah, actually. All right.
Likewise, the 3rd December meeting for the planning commission also canceled.
Huh.
So that they, the holiday
Yeah, having
spirit.
fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So nothing to report.
It's not like we don't need any housing. All right.
Their meetings are pretty long, so.
I know
Yeah,
they are.
yeah.
Yeah, Commissioner Bree.
Team council, but I'll have Commissioner Pettifali. I mean, I'll yield you to do your report. So.
Okay, he yields time on the floor to.
Well, she's the
Commissioner
expert.
Pettifali.
No, it was very enlightening. So that's why the whole attendance thing came up.
Yeah.
So.
Our last meeting was before the parks meeting last year in December, so nothing to report. Our upcoming meeting is next week on Tuesday.
All right. Thanks for deferring
I
that.
did go play pickleball over the holiday season.
You did?
At Iron Horse Gym, by the way, first
Okay.
time. So,
Did you have-
yes.
Did you put earplugs in?
No,
was it
but I
not-
will
not-
tell you that
not noisy?
I will tell you, I was very impressed with, the setup and how it was run and, and I'm ugly doing it, but I do have points. So, but it was interesting.
Did you win?
Oh, of course. No,
There
the
you
guy,
go.
the person I played with was extremely good, so I just watched.
Oh,
So,
okay.
tons
Okay.
of good guy participate, but it's interesting, the back court wasn't really being used, so I think it might have been for volleyball, but that was my only observation, but anyways, well run, well lit, I think I just thought I'd call out, I did good job, and the courts were good, so.
Great.
And the bathrooms were clean, Carol. So,
And non-written. Arts Advisory Committee, we saw one result, which was the recap for 2023 and 2024 plan. The other major agenda item was revisiting the selection for the Art and Wind Festival for the artist, for the select artist. If you remember, I think it was October, when the original selection was being made, there was a suggestion that we put out a second call for artists, more directly toward local artists in the Tri-Valley area. And so there were a number, I don't know, probably about 6, 7 artists that responded. And quite honestly, we went back, the Arts Advisory Committee, excuse me, went back and reviewed the previous submissions and actually ranked, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2, 2 of the previous submitted, and then the third was one of the newly submitted artists. I think it was a question of quality and composition and et cetera. So, I mean, these are not artists that are, I would not consider them not local. I mean, I think one's from Fremont and, I mean, so they are from the Bay Area, if not the immediate Tri-Valley communities. So, so there were 3 that were selected, and the process is reach out to the first, because you always want to make sure that they're available, that, et cetera, they're still want to proceed in the process. Et cetera. And then it was a review of the presentation that we saw this evening. So that was it. And there'll be a meeting next Wednesday. And that's it. Do we have any other announcements? Are there any like feeding frenzies coming up?
hey, Will, can I say?
Oh, the crab feed's coming up. Okay.
Hey, well, can I say one more thing? I missed it, but I wanted to recognize the holiday celebration. I think I don't know if I can call it Christmas tree, but the tree celebration and the number of people that show up and, you know, the nice job that whoever decorates tree did a great job, but and your speech was, I know I said it's amazing, but I
Oh,
just felt
thank you.
that that whole night was really good and the number of people, so I want to, you know, make sure we recognize that and, you know, well, I don't know if I said it last meeting, I feel like I did, but I thought your speech was amazing, so.
Oh, thank you.
So everyone did a really good job on that. So I think we as a community have, you know, whether it's the light parade or that celebration with the tree, you know, we're really starting some really solid traditions and we think out one of our goals, how to get people out. You know, we have some really good touch points from your point where you start with Dash Puja to all the way through that holiday season. I think it's really solid. So anyways, food for thought.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we doubled the lights. How are we gonna beat that? We're gonna put an angel on top. We're gonna put a,
But maybe they're gonna put colors on the tree next year.
we
maybe,
could
who
put,
knows?
we could do that. Absolutely. Yeah, we could have Santa sing along. Any number of things. So if there are no other comments from the commissioners or our coveted staff professionals that are here, we will adjourn the meeting at 21:15 on January 10th.